This video is inspired by an article in The Guardian about emotional contagion in teenagers, but this phenomenon applies to every age group, between age groups, and to everyone when narcissistic consciousness is involved. Here is a fragment of the article. Last week, scientists from the universities of Oxford and Birmingham published research describing how teenagers' moods are affected by those of others around them, and that negative moods are more potent. They also found that when a teenager catches a low mood from a friend, the friend's outlook becomes more cheerful. This probably sounds familiar. If it doesn't yet, I will explain how to recognize this dynamic when narcissists are involved, because it happens constantly. In this video, I will show, using examples, how narcissists and people operating from narcissistic consciousness break your emotional boundaries, deposit their emotional charge into you in exchange for your positive energy, and then close the boundary, either through kindness or rudeness, so that the charge does not return to where it belongs. At that point, you are running on narcissistic consciousness and will pass it on further. You will eventually fix your mood, but you are now either trained in narcissism or marked as a carrier for further deposition by others who need relief from it. At the same time, you attract experiences through the law of attraction based on the false substitutes that were deposited in you, while they attract outcomes based on your positive energy. This is why karma does not hit them, and why you keep attracting things you did not create. This is a cheat of the law of attraction. For narcissistic consciousness, it is essential to mix the outcomes of the law of attraction, because it must keep people small and unaware of the truth that humans are powerful creators. Those who do not want to pass narcissistic consciousness further, but are still connected to the narcissistic circuit, are the most affected. They are the ones who get burned by the charge repeatedly. It works like an electrical circuit. When people hold hands and a charge is sent through the chain, only the last person receives the electric shock. Narcissistic consciousness, when it works consistently and deliberately through a person, hits your boundaries repeatedly until you break, or it builds an internal charge inside you until you crack from within. Alternatively, it applies so much external pressure that you collapse under the burden. This may sound drastic, but it is accurate. This is a form of mining for vital force. Extracting energy needed to manifest the narcissistic reality while simultaneously blocking you from creating a humane one. They take your positive energy, replace the resulting void with narcissistic consciousness and emotional charge, and then close the reservoir so that the energy cannot return to its rightful owner. Here are some examples of this behavior. Number 1. Complaining until you give up and take their charge onto yourself. So this is an exchange. They become lighter and happier, and you become burdened. Then they either act as if they are cheering you up, or they become irritated and label you as boring. You are boring because they created that state in you. Narcissists do this and then set it as a standard. Once it becomes a standard, it turns into a mechanism within the relationship that you may no longer even recognize, because it feels normal. When you generate happiness, joy, motivation, or vitality, they break you open, take it, and replace it with narcissistic consciousness and its byproducts. You then become depressed, frustrated, or unhappy, and they step in to cheer you up or, as it often really is, to manage your moods. This is an inversion. They cause the state and then position themselves as the handler of it. The next example applies especially to women, younger sisters, younger siblings in general, or anyone who is perceived as the weakest in the system. It doesn't have to be the youngest child literally, but someone who carries a youngest position in the hierarchy. From the narcissistic perspective, this person is the weakest. From a humane perspective, they are often the most sensitive, open, and human. What happens is that you are made to feel terrible when you are winning. Metaphorically, it feels like an older brother squeezing your hand until you lose your grip on your win and they take it from you. You are programmed to associate winning with punishment, emotional torture, and loss. Letting someone else win becomes the way to be the good younger sister or sibling. It becomes the way to avoid emotional abuse, punishment, and sometimes even physical violence. This is a self-sabotage program that then runs for life. I use the example of an older brother and a younger sister because I see it often, but this dynamic is not limited to that configuration. It can happen in any direction and in many relational forms. Another example is comparison. When you are doing well or excelling at something, the narcissist starts comparing themselves to you. They do this until you begin to feel guilty for being better, until you feel bad about yourself, and until you start sabotaging your own progress. Then, suddenly, the narcissist is far ahead, no longer looking back, while you are left carrying self-sabotage programming that can last for years. This may sound abstract, but the same mechanism applies even to skills. Imagine you are doing well at something, even something as simple as a game. The narcissist starts complaining about how incapable they are, how unlucky they are, how little they can do. You respond by diminishing yourself. You block your abilities, soften your edge, and reduce your competence. What is actually happening is extraction. They pull you down to their level so that they can offload low-vibration energy, inability, and limitation onto you. At the same time, they quickly take your high-value, high-vibration energy. That energy immediately lifts them above you, while your energy becomes weighted by what they implanted. Now you have their inability, and they appear to have your abilities. At this point, they are vibrationally unreachable to you. You cannot access your abilities, energy, or essence, because your field is carrying their charge. This is how they gain advantage. They use empathy to bring you onto the plane of exchange. Empathy is dangerous in a narcissistic system, and it is deliberately promoted through patriarchy, which is the original narcissistic fractal running through religion, movies, and social conditioning. This trains scapegoats to accept burdens that are not theirs and to be mined for the value they naturally create and cultivate. People operating from narcissistic consciousness gain abilities through induction, through proximity, and pressure. Once the system is set, they continue taking from you automatically. If you break free early, your abilities return relatively quickly. If this has been happening for a long time, rebuilding takes much longer. All of this is energy exchange, karma exchange, destiny exchange. Stealing your positive creations and manifestations and dumping their negative onto you. And they are blessed because their blessings are yours, but they carry your energy so they receive what should be yours. And the other way around. You get hit by their bad karma, bad manifestations, and they receive your good karma and your good manifestations. They push you and squeeze you until you emotionally give up. They drain your positive energy and replace it with their negative, exactly as I said before. This happens on every level. It is always about energy exchange. The same mechanism applies to subtle situations and to extreme ones. It is the same with large-scale violations, including the molestation of children, women, and also men. It is the same process operating at different scales. In these cases, the goal is to offload shame, corruption, and internal burden onto another person and to take innocence in return. The more burden someone carries, the more innocent a person they need to transfer it into. That is why those who hold the most charge are drawn to the most innocent, and why people who carry extreme charge commit extremely harmful acts. The moment a boundary break occurs, it is often visible, almost physically noticeable, unless it has already been normalized. In family systems, where you grew up inside this dynamic, it becomes the standard. You may see it, but you deny it. You learn to deny it automatically. Later, when you encounter similar dynamics in the outside world, you continue denying them, even though you can often see them very clearly in other people's lives. When you step back and stop feeding the system, it becomes obvious. You start seeing how this consciousness operates through people around you and how it attempts to break you and connect you to its circuit. You begin to notice the exact moments when it starts affecting you. You will see the moment when this consciousness begins to run you, and also the moment when you resist it. When you resist it, the charge does not pass through. It stays in you, and then you have to clear it consciously. This can take days, weeks, or longer, depending on the intensity and duration of the exposure. As long as you continue feeding the system, you will not be able to see this clearly. Denial is part of how the system sustains itself. This is how the cheat of the law of attraction operates. You attract according to how you feel. People who operate primarily through narcissistic consciousness cannot generate genuine positive feeling on their own. They cannot produce it internally. Therefore, they must surround themselves with people who do produce it. Those people are then pressured, drained, and tortured emotionally until their positive energy is extracted. After that, the void must be filled. The narcissistic consciousness is deposited as a substitute. It works like mining a resource. When something valuable is extracted, the empty space is filled with something else to stabilize the structure. In this case, the filler is narcissistic charge. You then begin attracting outcomes based on that implant, while they attract outcomes based on what they took from you. This is how the law of attraction becomes distorted. You attract experiences that are not truly yours, and they attract results they did not generate. As long as the connection remains, this exchange continues. That is why narcissists do not receive their karma until scapegoats disconnect from them. Only when the connection is broken does the karma return to them. You must allow them to receive what they created. What they then go through looks very similar to narcissistic abuse syndrome. Suddenly nothing works. Everything goes wrong. Bad outcomes attach to them one after another. Life becomes heavy, confusing, and hostile. The difference is fundamental. In narcissistic abuse, it is a humane person being burdened with what is not theirs, while their own good is being extracted. When you return the burden and call your own energy back, they lose what was never theirs to begin with and are left carrying what they created. At that point, they may become very unlucky, sick, and destabilized. Their lives may deteriorate rapidly. You must stay strong and allow this process to unfold. Do not energetically absorb their ailments, misfortune, or collapse. Do not agree to be the scapegoat or the sacrificial lamb. This is usually the moment when they start screaming about witchcraft, curses, or attacks. When they were burdening you, they called it punishment for your sins. When the burden returns to them, they call it evil done to them. As always, it is inverted. This self-sacrifice is neither good nor moral, even though patriarchy, as a parasitic and predatory main fractal of narcissistic consciousness, trained you to believe that it is. The good feeling you get from sacrificing yourself is not goodness. It is fawning. It is a hypnotic trance created by emotional blood loss, the loss of life force that they then drain from you freely. Another very clear example is how narcissists approach you before important moments, such as exams. They come to you shortly beforehand, and afterward you are left with a strong inner feeling that something was taken from you. You may notice that they perform well, while you do not, and you know internally that this is not coincidence. It happens repeatedly. Whenever something important is coming up for them, they seek you out, drain your positive emotional state, and then attract favorable outcomes using what they took. They gain luck that originated from you, and you experience loss or difficulty. If you are a very strong producer of positive energy, you may still succeed, but they will take a portion of it. Narcissists actively look for people they can train into this exchange. Once it becomes standard, it turns into a default mechanism that is very hard to see. Even if you notice it, you are likely to dismiss it as paranoia, even though it is real. This mechanism can extend even to illness. They come to you and repeatedly talk about disease, symptoms, or suffering until you feel drained and unsettled. Afterward, they leave, and you become sick, injured, or weakened, while they remain in good health. The exchange strengthens them because it feeds them and weakens you because it takes from you. If the law of attraction worked in isolation, it would affect them, but it does not, because they offload the charge. They deposit it into you or into others. They shed it from themselves, attach it externally, and then move forward using stolen creative energy to build their own reality with material you produced. That is why, when you are connected to narcissists, the law of attraction seems distorted. Either it does not work, or it works in a way that feels hollow, heavy, or not worth the cost. This is also why sharing your goals with narcissists or with people who are temporarily operating under narcissistic consciousness often backfires. That consciousness acts to sabotage or complicate your goals, even while appearing supportive on the surface. It interferes with creation itself.